Hello, and welcome to the Great Egg Race. Now, this is the program where skill and invention and not a little creative thinking are put to the test to solve a practical problem. Now, our guest judge this week is Professor Ian Fells from Newcastle University. And here waiting to deal out this week's challenge is our principal judge, Heinz Wolf.
The name of this week's problem is the big deal. The task which the teams will have to face is to construct a machine into which a pack of playing cards can be inserted and which will then automatically deal 4 hands of 13 cards in the space of 2 minutes. By automatically, I mean that the cards, once having been inserted to the machine, cannot be touched anymore by any member of the team. So the teams are allowed to apply motive power. That team which produces a machine which the least misdeals and of the most elegant design will turn up trumps. Now teams, start wheeling and dealing.
Yeah, but it'd be easier to draw it off the bottom, wouldn't it?
So now let's meet tonight's 3 teams. And first of all, representing Townsend Torreson, we have David Johnson, Ricky Gammy, and Val Brown.
Here is the
The members of our second team are all freelance photographers from London, and they are David Ridge, Alec Forshaw, and Dick Macon.
Not if there's enough friction on here.
Cards.
And the third team comes from OPSEC Limited, a company which designs and makes printed circuits. Mike Grossmith, Bruce Courtney, and Richard Bowden.
Or 2 springs.
The idea is to stop any canasters and David Nixon's doing, touching the cards, can't it? Well, you can say that. It doesn't matter if one person thinks. The idea is that we cannot touch the cards. But if we turn the handle once, it's going to have to be a box, isn't it, of such.
And you're sliding them off under.
Yes, but if we have another wheel with maybe something like this on, so that it comes across, and on this it will slip, on this it's going to pick a card out and move it out.
Yeah.
Look, see, this thing is just dangling, okay, with its elbow in it, and the card comes past. Actually, it's going round and round, but okay.
Yes.
So
And
it goes round.
It'll knock up on.
When it comes back again,
It'll knock up on that.
when it comes back again, it takes another one off.
And turns it over.
And turns it
Just
over.
like that. Just like that.
Yeah.
I'd complain if I had that hand.
But you see, the cards are still going to be underneath where the tray goes.
Let's go back to the basics of what we're trying to do.
We'll dispense with the box, I think.
Yeah, we'll lose the box for a minute. I mean, dealing with them like that actually works very well. Now, say we replace my fingers with an elastic band.
Yeah.
Are we talking about forces
but
in this direction and that direction?
In watching me deal, it becomes apparent that there are really 2 parts to this problem. There's a question of peeling a card off the top or bottom of the pile, and there is another action of actually distributing the card into 4 heaps, which are in practice going to be rather more widely distributed than we have in here. Now, what sort of materials do you think might be suitable for this end?
Well, the sliding off of the card, something like this, which is the sort of thing that typists wear on their finger, will slide a card off, presumably attached to a piece of wood or a piece of metal, something of that kind. Then, of course, they've got to feed the cards upwards, and there's a whole selection of springs here, which I think will do that. These strike me as being really rather too powerful, but this seems to be the sort of thing.
I must say, if I had to do this, I think I would tend to use sponge. This is about 2 to 1 in terms of elasticity, and might be a more even pressure over the whole.
Yes. It would probably turn to a biscuit eventually, but it would be all right for our purposes.
But apart from the peeling the cards off, there is of course the need for structure materials for the distributor.
Yes. Well, now I think that amazing things which they have available
in their kitchen.
That's right. Yes. I mean, this could be used as a basis for something that is going to spin round, and it's fairly clear that kind of action is necessary. And if they're really noticing people, they have a rolling pin which contains inside it a ball bearing, so that would give that's going to give a method of setting up something that's going to spin round quite nicely.
It's almost ready-made for them, is it?
Well, yes. I'm not sure they've noticed that.
Well, we think this is really quite complex because many material handling problems where things have to be handled one at a time and there's a big penalty for handling 2 at a time, are difficult to solve and may require a good deal of fine-tuning. So I think what we should see is basic machines quite quickly, but machines which will then have to be adjusted rather carefully to have the performance which makes them acceptable as a car dealer.
Do all the sides except
Gentlemen,
the
I'm
front
sorry to
end.
interrupt you because it looks as if you've reached an interesting stage, but I want to know whether or not you've devised a basic plan of campaign yet.
Well, we have really.
Five, anyway.
We've just recently changed our ideas, but now we're going to put,
Do you know, I went over to Charles
we drilled the table, we're going to have a pulley drive operated by one person, which is going to drive another pulley situated in the centre of the table. This then is coming up through the table to drive this disc where we're going to mount the cards on the disc in a box. And then as the disc goes round, we're hoping to put 4 trigger mechanisms situated on the table so that when the cards go underneath the trigger mechanism, it takes one card off.
So they
That's
should
our
deal
theory.
themselves in fairly neat hands that way.
We
There
hope
shouldn't be
so.
too much variable in it.
That's right, because we didn't want to... First, we're going to move the cards round the middle and spin those, which made it a little bit awkward with the trigger mechanisms, but having the trigger mechanism fixed, the cards have got to stay in one place, theoretically anyway. We hope so.
Okay, best of luck with it.
Perhaps I use the little saw.
I'm kind of sorry to interrupt you people because you seem to be working sort of flat out. What's the matter? Are you worried about running out of time or what?
Well, we had to change our design plan radically when we thought of a problem. In that when we're playing cards, one plays into the middle of the table. So if you have a device that's centrally placed, you can't really have it there all the time. So it has to be removed. And we never thought of that because we wanted to make it fairly elegant, such that there was not a lot of paraphernalia, but you can't play with a Christmas tree sitting in the table, so we have to take it off. And what we've had to do, while trying to retain some sophistication in how we turn this thing round, we then had to make it removable so that after the deal, the thing is taken off, put on one side, and then can be just clonked back in immediately to do the next deal.
You think you've solved it?
We think we have.
Oh, I think yes, I think.
Yeah.
He's much more confident than you are.
Yes, he's doing the bearing.
The difficult bit is dealing the cards.
He's dealing the cards. We haven't sorted that one out yet. Good luck.
There you go.
We're going to have to spring load this, I think.
Very violent, isn't it?
Yeah, it's got to be more precise, isn't it?
I am amazed that in the amount of time you've had, you've reached such an advanced stage of construction.
Well, it hasn't really reached that stage. We've got the idea, and this is the basis for the idea.
Yeah.
And we've now got to try and put it all together and try and make it work in one go. The problem, of course, is picking up one card at a time.
What is the basic plan here?
Well, the basic plan is to use a standard casino-type card shoe. But instead of taking the cards out manually, to take them out automatically. And the piece of sponge on the end of this pulley wheel is supposedly supposed to do that.
I don't know, cards are very thin and the friction factor is very subtle. Is that
We've
going to
got a
work?
new pack of cards, and the friction between the piece of sponge and the card is a lot higher than it is between 2 cards. And we're just hoping that the gap at the bottom of the shoe we can make sufficiently narrow so that only one card will go through anyway. And hopefully it will all work.
Hopefully it will. I look forward to seeing it tried out.
Okay, thanks very much.
Okay.
Where have you got to?
Okay.
Starting on your end.
We're doing the hand.
What about the shoe?
What shoe? Oh, that's all right. No, I'm just getting him organised.
Well, we've been thinking about possible alternative ways which haven't been used, and one of the possibilities is, I think, to make an arm like this one here, which has a claw at the end of it, and the claw is only as deep as the thickness of a card, or preferably slightly less deep than the thickness of the card. So if I can just demonstrate this, if I were to put 2 or more cards in my hand here, like that, and operate the claw like that, it will only take the top card, because it simply isn't deep enough for taking two cards at a time. Now, I would have thought this was quite a promising mechanism to use, because it isn't so dependent on getting the right kind of frictional contact between the card and the friction material.
I think that I would try to do it a different way, and I would use suction. Supposing we had, actually we would cut this a little smaller, but we had this on top of the card and sucked, it would lift it up.
Yeah.
Now the great advantage of that is that you would only get one card at a time. Now it might be a bit slow, but it would also deal with a pack that wasn't brand new once it had got tatty around the edges. So I think that that's another way of doing it, though nobody's trying that way.
So it requires a suck reservoir of some kind, or a pump?
Yes, well, we'd need a pump, probably a bicycle pump like this one,
yes.
And probably a large tin can as our vacuum reservoir.
Oh gosh. Well, any of those, I wonder if any of those elastic bands are big enough to go really tight around that pulley in the V.
Yeah, I'm wondering whether...
And then that would give it a lot more...
You know, Dave,
yeah.
don't mind me saying, but what might help is a piece of wood about that long,
yeah.
with two holes in it, and then drive 2 nails in.
Oh yeah, yeah, good idea.
I'll just stop it all.
That's a clever idea, John.
I like that, John.
I don't know if this is better or worse.
I think what it needs, Dick, is something which, some sort of rubber band or spring, which is going to make them try and come back one side of the vertical.
Yes,
So once it gets to vertical,
needs to
or
be
nearly
shot
vertical,
over.
it goes a bit further over.
So I get I think this length of lever might be better.
It's jolly tight fit, this.
Now, if you put that through there, you've got to have a gap for that to come down. That's what you're saying.
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah. Could we do that by forcing a couple of washers on there or something? Or a couple of pins through it? So that we'll stay either side of
Yeah.
there.
Yeah. Bore through the sides and throw it down.
Put that in.
Yeah.
And then we'll have a look at it and see if we can cut it and pin it either side so that, in fact, we've got 2 rollers, one either side.
Yeah, well, you can do that just with a piece of wire.
Can we?
Yeah.
All right, well, let's go that way.
Yeah.
The card dealing part of the machines will all exploit the properties of new cards, that the friction between cards is really rather small, and that the friction between the finger and the card is going to be rather large. So differential friction is a great part of the secret of designing a successful machine. And old cards, of course, which are jammy, stick together and become very difficult to deal. Now, having a low friction isn't always an advantage. In a tray, for instance, having low friction between the plate and the tray is a positive disadvantage. But the relief is at hand. A new material has been produced called DISAM, and if you put a piece of this onto a tray, and I put a plate on top of that, you can do almost what you like. The coefficient of friction becomes very high, and the tray becomes very much safer. After the teams have finished making their devices, we shall see how they have exploited the different frictional properties of the materials with which we have supplied them.
Well, the teams have now had 2.5 hours out of the 3.5 that we're giving them to complete the problem, and they all seem to be fairly far along with their construction. So it seemed like a good time for the judges to make a tour of inspection.
Now, these are not your original swinging arms, are they? Why have you had to change the design?
Well, we started off with one arm, which was rotating with the pack of cards. And
Yes.
to make that work when the pack was full and empty, we decided on a cyclic one, 2,
Ah, yes.
on the end of an arm, but that didn't work either. So now we've gone to 4 fixed points on the end of a
And
post.
each of those just takes off one card each time,
Yes, the
each
tray,
time it goes
in
round.
principle, the tray should come along,
Yes.
pick the arm, and the arm will slide along the top of the pack of cards and take one off. We've weighted this with a ball bearing, plus this rubber to act friction. And the original tests work, so there's no reason why it shouldn't.
Well, good luck with it, and I hope it does work. Thank
you.
you.
I can just disturb you a moment. You've actually built something on your table. Just quickly either make something go around or explain to me how it's going to work.
Well, we hope by turning this.
Your handle there, which is a dealer's handle.
Yes, this is a dealer's handle, yes.
And then the wipers, when we get them stationary at 4 points on the table, is going to sort of take the cards out.
So in effect there are going to be 4 fingers. It's
4 fingers.
It's really as if each player takes a card as the thing goes around.
That's right.
Right, so you've got a drive underneath the table, a pulley.
A pulley is just a straight pulley.
And how are you arranging the feeding of your of your deck, because your deck will get thinner and thinner as time
Well,
goes on.
If we bring it round here, perhaps you
Just
can
with this-
see with the counterweight. Let me take this off. We have in fact got inside here.
She just takes the cards out, yes. I
Yeah,
see.
this-
Oh, I see. You've got this little lever here.
That's right.
Which
So
pushes the pack up.
all the time, yes. Just keeps feeding it up, yeah.
So the force is virtually independent of the thickness of the pack.
That's right.
Well, that seems a good idea to me.
Right.
Where are all the clamps?
Can I just interrupt you for a minute, though I know time is getting very short.
You're right.
At what stage have we got to now?
Final assembly, basically.
That's the shoe
That's the
that's going to
shoe.
dispense the card. So what's this rather splendid
Well,
arrangement?
this is going to be fixed, solid, and we're going to have 4 card removers,
Fingers to slide the cards
yes,
down?
yeah.
I see.
and this will then revolve, we hope, if I can get out the right way, around like that.
I
At the
see.
moment we're just making arms to hold it so that it will attach itself to the fingers.
It should look very impressive once it's going round and round.
If it gets fixed. we don't think the cards will be up the right way, but...
Oh, well, we're not going to worry about that. Thank you very much.
Where's that other retort clamp?
I don't know. I'm here. Here you are.
No, no.
This ingenious device is for shuffling cards, but it has several principles of a card dealer. If we put one card on here, there's a tiny portion of toothed wheel that spins round and pushes it through into the main body of the device, a similar one over here. Now, I can demonstrate the way in which it actually shuffles the cards by putting all reds in here, and I'll turn them upside down so that we can see them, and hopefully they'll come out shuffled from a little section here. So if I press the button now, it will spin, or it will shove each card in a random way. They are nicely shuffled.
Well done. Well, the device which I've got here is probably of great antiquity. It's a shoe which is used in casinos to sell cards and playing blackjack. And it delivers one card purely manually by sliding them down like that. And I think the reason you only get one card at a time is that one card is much easier to bend than 2 cards, and because the card is being taken to quite a sharp angle at the bottom here, I've got them upside down now, you only get one card at a time. The problem of feeding the cards is achieved in this machine, again very simply, by having a weight like this, which slides down an inclined plane. So that the force which feeds a card is constant and doesn't depend on the thickness of the pack. Now, the teams really face both these problems, and all their machines will have to incorporate solutions to both the feeding problem and getting a single card off the top or the bottom, as the case may be.
Okay, the 3.5 hours of thinking and construction time is now up, and in that time all 3 teams have actually managed to build some sort of a card dealing device. Now, however, comes the time to test them, and the first team to have a go is going to be OPSEC. But just before they start, Heinz, I wonder, could you explain exactly how you're going to score the teams on this?
Well, it's actually very simple. We're going to allow them to deal all the cards. We're then going to look for the hand which caused the smallest number of correctly dealt cards. We're going to multiply the number by 8, and that's going to be the score. In addition to that, Ian and I, at our total and complete discretion, have another 25 marks to award for elegance, audacity, or any other feature which we think is praiseworthy. Now, gentlemen, are you ready to start? You have 2 minutes.
No, it's going that way.
Get yourself into the dealing position. Okay. Now?
Yes. Yes.
Right, you start now.
Can you hold the base?
A slow but deliberate dealer. You've had 30 seconds.
No worries, Mike.
We got rid of it.
Right. You'll be glad to know that you finished well within your time. Now, Ian,
We have a bit of a problem now, don't we?
I thought this hand was the one which is most likely to yield.
Yes, I agree with that.
analysis.
So I think that if we...
Nah,
extraordinary thing, that the way, I think that one counts in it as well. It's,
right.
Yeah, that's one of them.
So we're first going to look at the hand, because if more than 2 cards were delivered together, then there would be adjacent cards. The packs were sorted into suites originally. Now we haven't got any two cards.
No, that all looks okay.
So they look like to be genuinely dealt cards, more or less.
Yes.
All right. So there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 of these. The 7 cards at 8 marks apiece are 56 marks for OPSEC. A score of 56.
Looked like it was quite a good gin hand as well. Well, that means that the score to beat is 56, and the team that's going to try to do that is the photographers. Heinz.
Well, before we start, perhaps you should explain that the photographer's machine is driven by an endless rope, which is just below table level, and which can be operated by any one of the 4 players. Well, gentlemen, are you ready to pull your ropes?
I think so.
Right, your 2 minutes are starting now.
See that, quick.
Now, I will explain about that particular feature later on.
We're going to get another one there. See, it needs to go back on the top of the pack. Yes. We're wasting valuable time. I think we'll have to leave that one out.
Yes.
And Dick, we need you on the corner.
I think you're complicating our scoring system.
Yes, I think we're doing all right.
Okay.
I think we should go
Well, so far it's dealing 1 at a time,
mostly.
give or take.
A lot of speed.
It's going rather well.
Well, it had an extra one anyway, that pack.
No, it's this one.
we shall know if that's what's happened, yes.
Well, the trouble is, yes, that your scoring system is a little bit capricious. In as much as
I should have said this machine was capricious, yes.
Oh.
Yes, now don't talk so much, you chaps.
It's got 2
well, that
there.
one's pointing in the right direction, isn't it? Extra card.
You're
too fast.
approaching the 1.5 minutes.
So,
I think actually it works really quite well.
Takes about
what a surprise.
takes about as long as a game of cards. There seems to be a slight design fault here, yes.
Well, your 2 minutes are up now. Well done.
I think that's the
Yes. So there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, which again produces a score of 56. But would you just like to demonstrate the purpose of this machine to us?
Well, this was the alternative backup method. If this one totally failed, it simply was...
You won't get any marks for this, may I say. Right, it is a no-touch card dealer.
And that was the brief.
Thank you very much.
I must say, I approve of the principle of that. I think that might have been a good thing to develop.
And what about our final...
Oh, yes.
Oh, yes, this machine can be dismantled so that there's no obstruction to the subsequent game.
Well, with remarkable consistency, the first 2 teams have each managed to score 56 marks, which makes the challenge for the Townsend-Torrenson team rather clear, I would have thought.
Right, gentlemen. Now, you seem to have a rather more light-fingered machine, in that these are your dealing fingers, aren't they? Which are spring-mounted, and you're going to drive it how?
So you've got pulleys underneath.
And you've got a handle which you turn. So you have the option of ultimately turning the thing by hand, have you? Right, well, are you ready to proceed? Your 2 minutes are starting now.
Oh dear. Well, what's going wrong? No, it's not how we planned it.
No, keep going, Dad. Keep going.
Come out. I don't know. How come we haven't got any over there?
Slow it like
You've only used 30 seconds.
Oh, well, I've got plenty of time. Oh, I've got one over there. Well, you see, it's supposed to be highly powered. The tuning's not so good, but...
That's it.
No, I think this is...
I think it's those three over there. Well, they were delivered separately. They were delivered...
Genuine three-dialed cards, and not that...
Indeed. I wonder if there is.
Shall we be merciful about
it? I think it could have got that.
But it's actually consecutive.
Yes, it's a consecutive one.
I think you better hide that one.
Good try, yes.
Three cards, three times 8 is 24 marks to this thing.
And that means that so far we have a tie for first place between the photographers and the team from OPSEC, who've scored 56 each, and Townsend Torrenson are lurching along behind with 24. But we have come now to the more sophisticated part of our marking system, and we're going to start with bonus points for inventiveness. Heinz.
Ian, you're my wheeling and dealing advisor on this. How do you consider this particular effort?
Well, this had a nice remote, if brisk, drive and a very attractive sound effect, we thought. And so we've decided to give them 10 points for imagination and attractiveness.
Which makes their total score 34. Probably more than they deserve. And now, Ian, how about this rather more sophisticated device?
Well, it's really two devices. They had this useful subsidiary device for correcting any mistakes they made.
You're biased about that.
It also was removable. I thought that was rather good, so that they could actually play a hand looking at each other. So we're going to give them 20 points.
Which makes their score a magnificent total of 76. And finally, the casino boot turned on its side.
Well, yes, and perhaps we should realise that this is Mark IV, I gather, but of course it was hand-driven in not such an exciting way. They're obviously not quite at a production level yet, so we'll give them 6 points.
Which produces a total of 62.
And what all of that means is that tonight's winners are the photographers with their 76 marks. Well done. Well done. And the runners-up are the team from OPSEC. And congratulations to them. And last but not least, Townsend Torrenson. Thank you very much for coming in, gentlemen. And thank you to our judges, of course, Heinz Wolf and Ian Fells. We'll be back next week with a brand new problem and 3 brave new teams to try and crack it. So until then, good night.
And those brave teams